Hello and welcome to the Forces Sports Show, your weekly roundup of the best action and biggest stories from across the services, coming up in the next half hour. Aiming high, but would the RAF have their wings clipped in the Birmingham County Cup? Rolling to the samba beat, how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has given this blind soldier a new lease of life. And still behind the wheel, the amputee driver getting to grips with his new car. The RAF's football team faced a tough challenge this week. They made their debut in the Birmingham Senior Cup and held their own until they were undone by a spectacular piece of bad luck. Kath Brazier was there.
The Birmingham Senior Cup has witnessed some big clubs compete over the years. In some cases, it's now treated as a youth or reserve team competition, giving them the opportunity to play against professional opposition on grounds of teams at higher levels. The RAF entered because they're always on the lookout for more competition and more experience.
Trying to prep the players properly throughout the year to make them at a competitive level for the Army and Navy. And it's also, we need to look at the players and see what level we actually think they are in the civilian world of football as well. So we can turn around and say we think he should be playing here, we think he's good enough to play there, and we can say all that, but it doesn't actually mean anything unless you actually see them playing in those environments.
The Light Blues certainly had the best of the first 20 minutes, fired up for the occasion. Dave Webb, in with an early chance, beat the goalkeeper Reece Wagstaff, but great defending from Harry Craven saved face for the home team. In the build-up to the game's only goal, there were opportunities at both ends, but the men in white put pressure on with a number of tight corners. However, the score came in open play. A lapse in communication led to an own goal. Nicky Dodd with a long ball, Danny Dixon heading it down, James McGowan putting it beyond reach of his own keeper Mike Carr. 30 minutes in, it was 1-0 to Boldmere. The Mikes continued to pepper the goal as half-time approached, and that momentum carried on after the break. Plenty of shots across goal, but nobody connecting. The closest they came was a clattering of the left post, about 20 minutes from time. Despite their obvious disappointment, for the most part the RAF rallied and kept their opposition at bay. Great reactions from Wagstaff, preventing the equaliser. A couple more near misses before the final whistle. All in all, a pretty evenly matched game, and everyone agreeing that the RAF are an excellent addition to this competition.
It's always disappointing when you lose a game of football, and especially in the manner that we lost the game. You could probably argue it was a 0-0 game. We probably had edged the chances, we probably edged the possession stats, but an own goal's killed us on the day, and everybody's in the changing rooms really, really disappointed, as you'd expect.
Kev won't give up and says he'll persevere with entering a team again next year. First, though, it's time to prepare for the inter-services, which take place in early 2018.
A former soldier who lost his sight in an IED explosion has been making waves in the unlikely arena of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Just months after taking up the sport, Rob Long is enjoying medal-winning success and beating sighted opponents. The appeal of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or BJJ, is for many members of the military obvious. It's a combat sport that focuses on grappling, especially ground fighting, as well as promoting physical fitness. Many units from all three services now incorporate the disciplines of BJJ within their own close-quarter battle training sessions. In an environment that demands fast body movements and strong visual awareness, logic suggests it wouldn't be considered the go-to sport for the blind. But at this year's Army Jiu-Jitsu Championships, not only was Robert Long making his tournament debut, he also won gold in the white belt division. The former Lance Bombardier, who served with 473 Special Observation Battery, suffered life-changing injuries during a tour to Afghanistan in 2010. He lost his sight after being caught in an IED explosion. Medically discharged from the military 5 years ago, Rob admits the sport has reinvigorated his zest for life. Under first-class instruction, he's developed a basic knowledge into medal-winning success.
We've done CQB in our unit, and we practiced forms of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it wasn't really the sport. It was more effective techniques that work. So I had a slight background in it, a slight knowledge of using limbs and using the opponent's body to get where you want with minimal effort. I had that background, and then ever since I've lost my sight, I've been searching for a martial art.
Well, you know, medal on debut, it couldn't have gone better for you.
Oh, I'm over the moon. I'm absolutely over the moon. My emotions are all over the place. This is absolutely fantastic. I feel, yeah, it's a missing piece of the puzzle that I've been searching for a long time since I lost my sight. Getting an opportunity to fight for the army again is just, it's more than I could hope for. I'm so happy.
During each fight, Rob is able to use his other senses to help him overpower his opponent.
Once you've got them in your grip, once you've got them in your arm distance, eyes aren't an advantage. It's all about feel. You're not looking at your feet, you're feeling the person, you're using the other person's weight distribution, how they're attacking you, how you're throwing them off balance, you're searching for those limbs with your hand.
As a coach anyway, it's always good to see your students and stuff progressing and doing it. But for Rob, he only decided to compete last week. I know he had a lot of nerves and stuff building up to it, so really happy for him as an individual, made up as a coach and stuff, but mainly just super proud.
With his first win under his belt, Rob is now hungry for further success.
I want to see how far I can take it. I've got there's another servicemen's and veterans and emergency responders competition coming up in December, which I'm obviously on the road to now. And this has given me a massive sense that, I can get there, represent the Army well against the other people in the tri-service and go in there and smash it.
White D heavyweight champion of the Army, Mr. Long.
Having overcome his disability, Rob is now set to overpower his opponents on the mat. The England Deaf Rugby team is providing inspiration for former soldier Craig Monaghan. He lost his hearing following a series of incidents while serving in Afghanistan in 2009. In a frank interview, Craig talks about his post-service condition, its near-tragic consequences and his subsequent recovery.
For rugby fans, autumn means internationals. The likes of New Zealand, Australia and Fiji on European shores for the highly anticipated competition. And that's no different for the England Deaf Rugby team. They'll be hosting the All Blacks in a 3-test series. This is Craig's second season with the England setup.
A serving soldier point to never thinking you're going to play rugby again to where I am now. Like it's weird because obviously once you lose your hearing and you have a brain injury, sort of like people write off any rugby career, so I just set out from that point to prove a point.
Serving with 2 rifles in Afghanistan in 2009, Craig perforated both his eardrums.
I remember my ears had been ringing for days by the time it had actually flagged up, and I had so yeah, my hearing had gone quite high. We were facing quite a tough tour. The company alone had suffered mass casualties. We think we had in total of, just from the company, 10 killed, obviously several of us seriously wounded.
Initially, he tried to cover up his hearing problems and was actually casevaced due to an eye injury.
Initial worry was I was going to be blind for life. So that was sort of, once that sort of detached, I did like detached retinas, once they put the retinas back on and whatnot, I started to see. But I still tried to keep under wraps, like my hearing, it was obviously bad. It weren't until sort of I realised that I couldn't hear everyday things, so like the smallest of things like the leaves blowing, like I just couldn't hear, and then that's when I realised it actually is a massive problem.
Craig only has 26% of his hearing left. He was also diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury and PTSD. He was medically discharged in 2013. He says rugby has been his saviour.
Like I felt massively guilty a lot of my time for having to leave the boys back in Afghan. And I just felt guilty for having to leave the army on a whole. Like the army for me, coming from my background, was everything. Like I didn't have a plan B. So when the army was taken away from me, I did feel massively low. And I did I'm not afraid to say sort of this far down the line that I had 3 failed suicide attempts. Just a couple of months before I was getting married, my wife walked in on me. My now wife walked in on me in quite a bad way and stuff. So having to be the chance to play sport, like I've just been to the Warrior Games this year with the Help for Heroes, and then obviously being around England, yeah, it just gave me that more of an outlook. It's gave me more of a push, so now I have something to focus on. The big thing is like the calls. So like the lads at the club now, they're learning to sign at the same time as making a call, so they're multitasking it. And as it went on, there was a lot of mistakes, and then when you sort of come to England Deaf, which was obviously like a massive honour to get involved with them. Once you sort of come to England Deaf, it's a bit strange because all of a sudden it doesn't matter that you can't hear, and everyone just sort of gets it from the start. And I think that's what's important, is because people get it from the start here, you sort of feel more included.
England and Wales have led the way with deaf rugby, other countries quickly following their lead. The men in white face the All Blacks 3 times this November, a prospect to relish whatever team you support.
Well, the RAF's Cooke Kane is among the squad of 28 named this week for England's 3-test series against Canada. After also impressing at the Women's Rugby World Cup last month, she's definitely one to watch. The Army dominated this year's individual inter-services squash championships. They won all but one of the titles up for grabs on home turf in Aldershot. 3 of the 4 finals at this year's individual inter-services squash championships were all Army affairs. With the service dominating this season's tournament, their red-hot form may have been the result of them returning from a tour to the United States just days before. Having enjoyed plenty of time on court and testing themselves against international opposition was for some the perfect preparation. But the eventual winner of the men's title was unable to travel across the pond. Royal Artillery officer Sam Miller played professionally before joining the military, so his class told as he saw off the challenge of fellow Army player Len Westover. With a former world ranking of 75, Miller took the title 3-0.
It's a privilege to be able to come and play in this tournament. There's so many great names on there, and people who want it a lot more than I have. I'm not going to be able to play at this level forever. So every opportunity I can take to come and win it is great.
You must be delighted to have seen that the Army dominating that, and I'm sure the other 2 services are probably thinking, cripes, we face these guys again when it comes to the inter-services team tournament as well later.
I mean, we've got a bit of unfinished business from last year. We lost to the Navy, we want to go and make sure that we reverse that result.
Meanwhile, the women's final featured current Army #1 Rosie Hamilton and Michelle Higgins. Hamilton took top prize 3-0. Both players had been involved on the Army's tour to San Francisco and had enjoyed the benefit of that experience.
It was great to get some kind of tough matches, really tough matches actually, out there, and there's nothing bad about playing squash in somewhere like San Francisco.
Was the timing of that set up to come into this tournament, or was it just one of those lucky coincidences, if you like?
The Army tours always go in kind of August, September, October, designed to be kind of a tour and pre-season training, so it is definitely deliberate.
The Army won the Masters title too, but RAF man Craig Stevens prevented an all-red parade by edging Army player Adam Smart in the men's junior final. The Bulmer-based SAC was overjoyed on his tournament debut.
Yeah, it's first tournament I've played in the military, so off to a good start.
Well, fantastic. What does it mean for you to sort of break that stranglehold that the Army have had on this tournament?
Yeah, it's really good. It looked like they were going to get the clean sweep, but I managed to get the RAF in there somewhere.
There is good news on the way for the UK Armed Forces players, as England squash are set to sign the Armed Forces Covenant at the end of the year. That will take place during the World Championships in Manchester.
We need that relationship with England squash. The covenant's there obviously for lots of companies and organisations to sign and support our armed forces. So it's the Professional Squash Association and England Squash who are going to sign it at that event. And it's a really important relationship, I think, for us.
So, good times for the Army, but the other 2 services will be chasing the team title. That competition is set for early next year. Teams from all 3 services are among the 70 gearing up for the UK's largest annual motor race at Silverstone. The RAF are former winners of the Burkitt 6-hour relay race.
The key to success in the Burkitt is it's consistency. It's driving to the sort of potential of your vehicle and being able to do that sort of lap after lap. It's actually harder for the teams with the sort of more powerful, faster machinery to do that because of the traffic, because we're putting 70 cars out on circuit. So, the actual handicap race probably slightly favours the teams running sort of, some of the sort of slightly lower performance machinery. But that's great because, there's the scratch race to go for the teams running sort of expensive sports racing cars and GT cars. And the handicap race, is usually a fantastic battle between some of the more, modest sort of saloon cars and sports cars and kit cars that people run in the race. So, it makes it very interesting for everyone, involved.
70 cars running around Silverstone it's extraordinary. It's kind of
70's the absolute maximum that you're allowed to run in the UK. It can only happen at the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone. Given that each team is comprised of probably an average of 5 cars, there's actually 350 cars and drivers in total in the race, and 70 on track at any given time.
And it seems to be getting more and more popular every year. I mean, I think you really have reached the maximum now, haven't you?
Yeah, the last couple of years we've actually filled it and been sort of in a situation where we've been turning people away, which is a nice problem to have, and we're really hoping we hit that sort of 70 car target again this year.
So it's going to apply to the 2017 vintage of the Burkas, is it?
We hope so. We're sort of well on our way to the maximum sort of again this year. We've got a fantastic mix of diverse cars and drivers coming once again.
Well, becoming a racing driver isn't a route taken by many injured personnel, but that's where Scottish veteran David Burrell excels. The double amputee has been getting to grips with his new car for next season at Donington Park. Ali Gibson reports.
The Chevron GR8 GT4 packs quite a punch. For David Burrell and his team Woodard Racing, getting behind the wheel of this is going to be a big change. The former Blackwatch soldier lost his legs in an IED blast in Afghanistan in 2010. Since then, he's been steadily building a career as a racing driver.
I'm excited. I've been sick with anxiety this morning. But it's all about that step forward, and to be able to achieve what I want to achieve, I need to make those progressions up the ladder.
For the next year, Woodard Racing are the work-supported team for Chevron Cars, a company with more than 50 years of racing experience. 2018 will see the partnership take on the Creventic 24-hour endurance series, with races in Dubai, the UK, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Belgium and the United States.
Next year, really, we want to come away from it being able to say we've done a good job. We don't expect to win anything. There's a lot of good GT teams out there. We're going to be up against some very, very professional teams and drivers. But I think if we can come away from that, looking at it and saying that wasn't bad, then that would be good enough for us. After that, we're going for wins. But up next year is the learning one.
Here at Donington Park Race Circuit, it's a day for the team to familiarise themselves with their future and a lot more technology.
On the steering wheel we have 14 buttons here. We have what's called TC button, that's called traction control. Now in a road car you just have one setting for traction control. Here we have 5 different settings for traction control, so we can adjust how the engine puts the power down for us.
After previous seasons in the Mini, this GT car is a different ball game. Despite the wet, the team got in a few twists and turns on the tarmac.
Yeah, the car is really, really fast and so much fun. I just wished I could put that extra inch on the pillar, but if you've not got ankles, you've not got any extra inches you could push. So everything was from the hips. But yeah, absolutely loved it, and I just feel really proud of myself at the minute. It's not been easy to get to where I am today, but look where I am. Think about 7 years ago where I was, and 7 years on, near enough 8 years, I'm reaching for a goal that no one ever thought I would reach.
Long-term, David Burrell hopes to be the first double amputee to race at the Le Mans 24-hour race in a non-adapted car. 2018 is going to be a big step up, but it's one he's determined to face head-on.
A team of 6 women from the British Army has set off on an incredible mission in Antarctica. They're known as the Ice Maidens and have come together after a 2-year selection and training process. Majors Nix Wetherall, Natalie Taylor, Sandy Hennis, along with Captain Zana Baker, Lieutenant Jenny Stevenson and Lance Sergeant Sophie Montaigne, are aiming to become the first all-female group to ski across the continent. They'll cover 1,700 kilometres over the next 3 months, facing temperatures of -50 degrees. And finally, the Autumn Rugby Internationals are almost here. It's a good chance to remember when some of the world's finest forces players came to the UK for the International Defence Rugby competition, and take a close look at the final between the British Army and Fiji.